Hello and welcome to another episode of The Reluctant Leader. I am your host, Gajinder Bogle, aka The Reluctant Leader. And today I am joined by Chintal. And Chintal is honestly an incredible soul. And she has been integral in my own business journey. I'm sure I've probably been integral in her business journey, but she's actually been integral in my business journey throughout my own healing and kind of spiritual path that I've been on as well. So I am so excited to have a very different conversation with you today, Chin, which I don't think we've ever had. So
No.
I'm excited to have you on. I'm honored to have you on, and I can't wait to kick off this conversation. But before we do you want to introduce yourself to everybody and just let everybody know who you are and what you do?
I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me on this conversation. I'm really excited. And yes, absolutely. I think it's just going to be a really fun, conversation. Let's see where it goes. So my
Yeah.
name's Chintal Kakaya. I am a intuitive and transformational energy healer, spiritual life coach, and mentor. So what do I do? What do I not do? um, is the question. So I'm here to guide and empower soul-led women into their highest and most authentic selves. So what that means is becoming who you truly are at the core of your essence and your soul. And by doing that, we get you to lead a life of vitality, freedom, and love, whilst also creating a positive impact in the world. So there are so many amazing women out there who are here as change makers, as wanting to raise the vibrational frequency of the collective consciousness. And it's so important to be in full alignment with your own authentic self, because everybody else is taken. And secondly,
Yep.
by being in alignment with who you truly are and embodying your authentic self through love and through compassion, you're able to share your gifts. You're able to hone in on exactly what you're here to do through your own mission. How do I do this? I take you on that journey inwards. I take you on a beautiful journey inwards where we start to explore. And this is where healing comes in, because for years and years, there's so much that we have taken on board. There's been conditioning, there's been belief programs, there's been
Especially
ancestral,
with Asian women, right?
100%. So there's been ancestral, intergenerational trauma, past life. There's so many different aspects and elements. So when we're healing and when I do the healing work with you, I work very intuitively and psychically, and also bring in the modalities that I've been trained in, which, by the way, I've implemented everything on my own self, seeing a complete shift in my own life, which is what I now bring to you as well. So as women, especially as South Asian women, there's been many, many years of conditioning and suppression and oppression, and voice is one of the biggest things that women don't know how to use with confidence.
Because we've always been told to be quiet, right? Don't
100%.
talk too loud. Don't let, just be seen, but don't be heard. Don't let anyone hear you.
Don't laugh. Don't be
Don't
so
laugh too loud.
happy. Don't laugh because you'll end up crying. I mean, come on, what kind of belief program is that? So, women have stopped knowing how to laugh properly or how to enjoy themselves, how to have fun. Life becomes so serious. And over the years, and this is where the trauma work that I do with individuals comes from that place of, when we use the word trauma, a lot of people believe that there has to be something massive that's happened in your life, which is trauma. But actually, your emotional needs not being met as a child, not being heard, or not being allowed to be your own authentic self from a child, as a child, that in itself is a trauma. Because what you're then doing is you've been molded into who you should be, what you should look like, what you should wear, how you should show up. And that disconnects you from your true essence, your soul, your spirit. So this is how I bring you into your full alignment of who you truly are and help you step into the most powerful, your highest authentic self, because that journey, as many of the world kind of coaches will also say, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Exactly that. It's not easy, is it? It's not easy. And obviously, talking of easy, I can just imagine that this journey, stepping into entrepreneurship, probably hasn't been easy for you. And this whole series is about the reluctant leader, and it is about sharing stories of entrepreneurship. So
Yeah.
I really want to understand how this started. And I think I was actually part of your journey when you first started stepping into this, but actually I didn't know that I was at the start of it.
Yes.
Um, so can you share more about how this started as a business offering where you felt, do you know what, I can, and it's not about creating a business out of this, it's I can serve more people
Mm,
with what I have been given as
yes.
my own superpower. So how did that come about for you?
So it first started with my own journey of healing because I used to experience, or I used to suffer from a lot of chronic health problems, anxiety, depression. Burnout was the biggest thing. And what I'd
Mm.
noted as well, that emotionally, I was totally dysregulated. You know, it was just constant either bursts of anger or frustration or irritation. And when the health started to deteriorate, and when doctors were like, but all your bloods are fine, we don't understand what's going on, I'd kind of heard a voice internally this saying, go inwards, but who am I? And that who am I started from, like I've shared very briefly before, when I was on holiday and I'd collapsed, and my daughter, who was only 6 years old at that time, she screamed the whole place down saying, Mummy's dead. I need a new mummy. And when I came around from that, and when I was in that space, being surrounded in a different country with all these people around me, some random man like slapping my face trying to wake me up, and I was like, what's going on? Reflecting upon that, I was like, oh
Mm.
my God, what is my purpose? Who am I? And do I want my daughter to see me and know me as this? Is this what I want my daughter to lead her life as? Because what I'd realized was I was in constant survival mode, constant doing, the hustling, giving everybody, but never given to myself.
Mm.
So that's when my journey of healing started. And I started off with Reiki first.
Okay.
And I didn't
So
realize,
you were getting Reiki done on yourself.
I started to receive,
Hmm.
because the time when I started my healing journey, it wasn't, it wasn't as blessed as what we have now in terms of the number of individuals who are offering the different levels of service. That point, I had to look in Google. I had to try, even just trying to find out from people around me, can you recommend somebody I can work with? And all I was being put in front of was talking therapy. And
Mm.
I felt that didn't really work for me. Because yes, as much as talking helped, I felt I was still going round and round with the same issues
Yeah.
over and over again. So when I went on that journey of Reiki, I started to receive it. And I felt worst, because what happens was nobody was telling me, nobody was guiding me that actually there's a lot of energies, there's a lot of beliefs, there's a lot of stuff and issues that were compounding within us, within this body being the vessel. So when that life force energy is coming through you, of course, that high beam of energy is going to start shifting things, and you're going
Mm.
to start releasing. What did that even look like? What did that even feel like? And all I can say right now was, oh my God, it was just like you were in this roller coaster or in this washing machine at 5,000 spin cycle. And you're just like, I have no idea what's going
What
on.
is going on
What is
here?
going on, right?
What is going on here?
So as I was on that journey, I started to read a lot of self-development and self-help books on healing. And interestingly enough, I came across my book, Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life.
Yes.
And do you know
I have
what?
that.
I had that book in my cupboard for nearly 10 years that I'd not even touched.
So you already had it there.
I had it.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, oh, so I started to piece things together.
Mm.
And I knew I've always felt energy. And I knew I've always meant to be, my purpose has always been to serve. And that was something I'd always known from a very young age as a child. And I started to remember as a child, I used to feel energies because I used to feel really sick around certain people, especially during festival times. So again, that point, people had labeled me as a sick child. And I had then carried that belief over into my teen, into my adulthood. So of course, the ill health was a program,
Yeah.
right? It was a program that was given to me, which I carried on.
Wow.
And that's when I started to understand and unravel. And as the obvious fast forward between all of that, I was on that journey. And I remember once I said, obviously 2020 COVID hit, I was on the front line and life was literally just go. There was no moment to even take a step back and breathe. And everybody, work colleagues, everyone around, we were all just, it was the adrenaline that was fueling us. But we knew that that was going to stop at one point, because we know how the stress cycle works. We know how your dysregulated nervous system works. You know, functioning on adrenaline will only serve you to a certain point before things start to affect you again. Obviously, I'd come down with COVID, but actually for me, it was the best thing that ever happened. So people were like, Chin, you can't sit on the edge of the bed for 5 minutes and you're sitting there with like the biggest smile on your face. I was like, but I feel in bliss.
Wow.
I had a real surreal experience. My soul had left the body.
Wow.
And as I had lifted up, I'd gone into this beautiful realm. And I was just surrounded with white light and just these beautiful energy beings around me. And all I heard was, your mission is only just starting. And I felt
Wow.
the hands on me and they pushed me back down. And I heard the words, we're with you. We're guiding you. Your mission is just starting. And that's when I knew that, okay, I'm on a journey. This
Mm.
is a journey.
Mm.
And I was like, I had questions. Oh, who's going to help me? Who's here on the physical earth that's going to help me with this mission? Bring them to me. And my journey started with life coaching, spirituality, breath work, Reiki move. Oh my God, so many different things. And it was all for me, nobody else. It was all for me because I knew I was shifting, I was evolving, I was elevating, I was becoming the Chin that I'm meant to be.
Yes. I love that, Chin. And then at what point did you feel that now I'm ready to start helping other people with this?
It was when I really started to experience the shifts and I started to understand where the health issues were stemming from. I started to understand toxic work environments as well. I
Mm.
started to understand where the energy was leaking, where it was drained, and what was going on. And I was picking up other people's energies. I was picking up other people's thought forms.
Wow.
And I started to go deeper into learning more about the brain, neuroplasticity. Obviously, my background in healthcare really supported all of my journey as well. And it was 2021 going into 22 when I remember I just said, you know what? I said it out loud to the universe. I said, I'm ready. bring my teacher to me, bring my mentor to me. And I want a mentor who has walked this path, who is living this path. And lo and behold, within less than 2 months, I was in this space that I wasn't even meant to be in. And my mentor was there. And I've been working with my mentor since then. And that's when my journey with theta healing started.
Mm.
And as my journey with theta healing started, we went deeper into the subconscious. We started to understand more about the dynamics of multidimensional beings. We started to understand the healing process, starting to understand the emotional side, the physical side. And that's when I started to implement it on myself. And 2022, it was when I was like, this is a game changer. This is what people require out there. I know I've now got to where I've got to. It's served me, and I'm now here to serve others in the same way. And that's when I actually left my NHS career as well in 2022 in August.
I remember that because we were working together, weren't we, when
Yes.
that happened? I remember that was just the craziest time. And, do you remember the fears that you
Yeah.
had back then? And looking back now, you're probably like, oh my God, like, what even was that?
Do you know what? The leap of faith. And it was such, all the fears were all
Mm.
what I now call the material world fears.
Yes, yes. It really was. It really was. And one of the things that I strongly believe in is once you believe, once you trust, once you believe, once you surrender, every single one of your needs will always be met. And
100%.
yes, it is the materialistic things that are not really that important, obviously, unless it is whatever your heart truly desires. But the chase and what we're looking for is always going to be met, is always going to be met by the universe. So obviously, Chin, you are no stranger to business. Okay,
No.
so obviously, when you went through your own journey, you were no stranger to business, and you have had experience of a business. And can we talk about what probably led to a lot of the feelings of what you were feeling, to go into healing anyway? What might have brought a lot of this stuff is Chin's Kitchen.
Mm.
Now, one of the biggest regrets that I have is that I never knew you during that time, because I never got to try some of these rumors that I hear so much good stuff about. So can you talk us through your journey of Chin's Kitchen and how that business journey started? Because that is actually the start of your entrepreneurial journey, wasn't it?
100%. Yeah. So, just like many women, many mothers, my dream and my ambition and my aim, the intention was that I wanted to work around so I have time for my children.
Mm.
Biggest thing for me was I wanted to be able to drop my children to school, especially my daughter. Now that may not mean a lot to a lot of people. And I always get emotional sharing this story because I moved to the UK when I was 12, and my mum was working about 3 or 4 different jobs, which meant that coming to this country, first of all, it's massive. You're coming at an age where it's quite vulnerable. You're starting a new school. You don't know people. And people would mock you because you look different, you sound different, you have a different accent. Obviously, I was born and raised in Africa, in Kenya. And it was just, there were days where I was like, I wish my mum could drop me to school.
Mm.
And that really had hit home because working in healthcare, yes, I'm serving everybody else. But when I had my son as well, I went back to work when he was, 6 months old. So it was early mornings, dropping him to nursery, picking him up after work from nursery and stuff. And I'd realized I was missing out so much on his time.
Yeah.
So when my daughter was born, I was like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
I was doing 14-hour days at work. I used to leave at 6:30 in the morning, actually longer than that. I used to leave at 6:30 in the morning and not come home till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So my memories, which is what I look back on now, is the videos that my husband would take of her. And she would be like, they'd have bedtime or bath time, and she'd sending me good night messages on videos. So I got to a point where I'm like, I don't want this. This is
Yeah.
not what I've chosen. So from that on, I made it my goal that I just want to be able to go drop my daughter to school. So yes, she was at nursery and stuff, and there was times in between I had her, but I said by the time she starts school, I want to be the mum who
Mhm.
drops her and picks her up from the school, because I know how much that meant to me, that I wanted. So I was like, what can I do? And I used to love baking. I've always been very creative. And human design, manifesting generator, if anybody knows, we're always on the go. Something or the other.
Do this, do this, do this, do this.
Exactly. And everyone's like, Gin, how do you do it all? And I was like, I don't know what I
Mannequin.
do. So people started to really, it started off as a blog in 2013. So I was on maternity leave, and I started to share food recipes and doing blogs. And I was working alongside a charity called Curry for Change, Find Your Feet. We used to do events together. So I used to share like cooking. We used to raise money. So they used to then obviously support those who are in less fortunate places, like in India and Africa. They used to support them to develop and their skills so they can work, so they can bring money in. So that's the kind of stuff I used to support with as well. And then I started Chin's Kitchen, and I was very much in alignment with, I want things to be natural. Like,
Yeah.
nature is so beautiful. And, when somebody gives me cake, I'm like, dude, I want that much cake and that much icing. But what I used to find was there was always that much icing and that much cake. So I'm like,
Mm.
when I want cake, what do I want? I want proper cake with a bit of icing to kind of complement it. And I was very much no sugar paste. It has to be buttercream or ganache, because I want the flavors. So it was all about flavors. What am I feeling into? What am I thinking? And it was about infusing our culture as well. So I started to create recipes of my own using Indian flavors, East African flavors, bringing in like the cardamom and sometimes the black cardamom, which people don't use because you have to know your flavors and your tones and what pairs with each other and stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I was doing. And then it was a childhood favorite of mine, which was nankatai. I remember as a child going to neighbors, they used to give that to me with little sprinkles on top. And I was like,
Ooh,
you know what? It's such a beautiful nostalgia, like a memory that I'm sure
yes.
right in the East Africans in this country. So to say the least, obviously that's how it started. And I was just like doing a bit, and then Chin's Kitchen was born. And did it accelerate? Yes, it did.
It did,
Was-
because I've heard so many rumors, and I've heard about how amazingly successful this business was. But can you share with us behind the scenes of running this successful business?
it came at the cost of my health.
Mm.
And what had happened was, that was my first business, and I was just learning on the go. I didn't have you at that point to guide me from a business
Mm.
point of view, Gajinda,
Yeah, yeah.
because you don't know what it takes to run a business until you're in it and you're like, OMG, like, what am I facing? Especially when it started to scale into me supplying hotels, restaurants, hamper companies, contracts come in, NDAs were coming in. I was like, what?
Wow. And
Done
you are on your own at this point?
on my own. I ran the whole business on my own for 4 years with the
Wow.
support of my husband. what behind the scenes looked like, and those who knew and were coming to my place, my whole house was a constant production line where I felt that I was doing this to support my dream of working around children. Unfortunately, it was beyond that. I was coming home from work, I was
Mm.
straight in the kitchen baking to meet the demands, meet the needs. My sleep went to 3 hours a night. And I remember, and at that point, I was guided by the masculine business owners, masculine business guides, mentors, and coaches. And they were hustle. They were hustle.
Bro marketing, right?
And it was very much like, to be successful, you survive on 3 hours sleep. You've got to keep going,
Mm.
keep at the grind, keep at the grind. That's what I did. And yes, the success was there, but emotionally, I was broken. I was burnt out to the point that actually, at one point, the right side of the body had become paralyzed because of burnout, stress, and everything. So couldn't even walk properly. I required a lot of interventions to get to where I am now today.
Wow. So how not to run a business?
Your well-being is your first priority.
And do you know what? And that is the thing. Like, if you want to know the true success of a business, ask family members, ask the people around the business owner what
Mm,
they think of mum's business, and you'll
yes,
find the reality of what success looks like.
yes.
And yeah, I can only just imagine what you were going through. I didn't know you at that point. And is it fair to say then that obviously you had an entrepreneurial spirit in you,
Mm.
but that wasn't the right entrepreneurial path for you?
I believe it was meant to be part of the journey for
Mhm.
me to be where I am today.
So you had to go through it.
I had to go through it. There were
Mm.
many lessons learned. I mean, it was amazing. What first of all, I learned to use my voice. That's how I
Mhm.
also noted that I was so fearful of being heard, being
Yeah.
seen, being visible because of suppression, because of being told, "Oh, you're too much," or "Be quiet, your voice is too manly." Like,
Oh my
it was
god.
I remember at every exhibition, it would be my husband who'd be the salesperson in the front, and I'd hide behind him. Even though I
Wow,
was the
really?
brand behind the face behind it, he'd be the salesperson.
Mm.
And I was like, "Wow, what have I learned from all of that?" So, yeah, that was a journey that was meant to be part of it, because what I learned from that as well was, yes, all that was successful. I won many awards, but right now where I sit, none of that that doesn't mean anything for me, because what that did was actually affected my health, but affected my relationships. It affected my time with my children, because actually when I was busy doing all the wedding events, I was out for 5, 6 days, and that includes weekends.
Wow.
So where I wanted that time with them, it was complete opposite. And you can
Mm.
imagine poor diet, poor sleep cycle, lack of going
No
inward.
self-care. Yeah, no self-care.
Yeah, and this is what I mean by self-care. Healing has been the
Mm.
massive part of self-care. And this is why I'm still devoted to my journey of healing, you know that.
Yeah.
And I do it every single day. It is part of my lifestyle, because I can only serve I can only serve as it to the depths I've met myself, but also how I look after myself.
100%. So, is that a key message for you to people out there listening that are on their entrepreneurial journeys? That actually, what you've learned from Chin's Kitchen and taken into the Sacred Haveli is that actually you are the most important asset in your
You
business.
are. You are. You are the biggest
Mm.
investment in your business. and the biggest asset in your business. Because if you don't go inwards, and this is where when people talk about self-care, it's like, yeah, massages, getting nails done, spa, amazing. But the true
They
self-care,
soothe you, but they don't shift nothing.
yeah, the true self-care comes from the inner work, the
Mm.
journey inwards. And going through that journey inwards, it's the most, yes, there's discomfort. I'm not going to sit there lying saying it's not. Of course, it's uncomfortable. Of course, there's going to be times when you think like, oh my God. But actually, when you're on the other side and you look at how liberated you feel, you're like, wow, why didn't I do this sooner? Because there's
Mm.
so much that you're carrying, the weight, the baggage, the programs. I mean, if you're running an entrepreneur business, but then you're struggling to even like
Show up.
go up
Go
for it,
live. Yeah.
yeah, then how what are you trying to attract? Because you can chase things, but we're not here to chase. Business can be done in so many different ways, and you know it, I know it. When we shift and align energetically, when we shift and align to come in to the core essence of who we are, what we're here to do, you start attracting
Mm.
because your frequency changes,
100%.
your
And you're more
vibration changes.
and you become a vibrational match for what it is that you want to attract, whether that's clients, whether that's whatever it is that you want to attract. Now, Chin, one topic that I really do want to touch upon, because you mentioned it
Mm,
and you spoke about having these feelings, knowing you were different when you were younger. So you experienced a lot of this stuff that you're experiencing now. When you were younger, the signs were all there, but you didn't do anything about it.
no.
And what was that like? Because there might be people out there that feel that they are a bit more special, a bit more magical than other people out there, but they're doing nothing about it. So can you talk us through what you went through and then how you had to step into that
Sure.
to be
So,
where you are now?
okay. So, where obviously as a child, like I said, I was feeling everything. Now, I remember in my 20s, I had gone with a friend from work. We'd gone to this beautiful healing space in Brighton. It was like these beautiful farms, and they were doing Reiki healing. They were doing the sun dance. Oh my God, I was in my element. I was like, oh, I love this. And it just reignited something within me. And again, at that point as well, I missed the trick that this is a knowing, your inner knowing of who you are.
Mm.
But what happens is when you grow up in a society, in a culture where all that is known as woo woo, or you've gone crazy, or what kind of spirits have gone into you, you end up suppressing it, you end up closing it.
Yes.
And that's what had happened with me. I remember purchasing crystals, I remember purchasing different things, and I used to hide it under my bed. And I remember my mum finding it, and she chucked it all away. She goes, "You've gone crazy. Like, get away from all of this." And it was her fears. But I took on her fears as my own. So I ignored it. Again, in my 20s, the sign was there, but I'd ignored it. And then through my healing journey, I started to reconnect back with it. I consciously made the choice of, this is where working with the right mentors and the right
Mm.
coaches is so vital, because I was empowered. I was empowered to step into my true self. So through my journey of theta healing as well, because when I first started with Reiki, and I remember that's when I joined your boot camp, there were so many reservations even then.
Yeah, I remember it.
The fears that were coming up.
Mm.
And that's because what was happening was I didn't know how to process the information that I was receiving. It felt overwhelming. It felt scary. So that's when I went on this journey with my mentor, and I was then started because I started to receive a lot of psychic information way even nearly that time, and I was like, no, 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 this is too much, can't deal with this. Like, what's going on? Oh my god, fear, fear, fear. It was just because your ego, and this is where sometimes your ego comes in as to protect you. Well, not sometimes, all the time it comes in for protection. But
To
what
keep
you,
you safe, right?
but
Mm.
what you don't know is what you don't know. And this is where working with the right support, the mentors, the guides, the coaches, comes into play, because they walk by your side. So as I went through this journey and I started to receive and I started to understand, I had my mentor to turn to. I didn't tell everybody about it because this is my journey, and it's
And you
okay.
want to make sense of it first before you can explain it to someone else.
Yes, it's okay if your family don't understand it. It is okay if your spouse doesn't understand it.
Mm.
It is okay that you feel that you're different. I still feel I'm so different to everybody, but I accept it that I'm different, because I'm not here to be put into a box. I'm here to create some
Yeah.
massive changes in the world. I know what my mission and my higher mission is, but that means I have to overcome. It's not even overcoming the fears, but it's learning how to walk with that fear, but
Mm.
lean more into the faith and the trust and surrendering into the unknown and the uncertainty.
And it's stepping into that, isn't it? It's stepping
It's
into that
stepping
thing.
intentionally, stepping into it. And when
So
you step in with intention, it shifts things through for you.
mm. So there might be people out there listening to this conversation that
Mm.
are suppressing things,
Yes.
that are feeling a calling, that have a knowing, and then know they should be on this different path. What is that first step you would advise them to take to really step into their truest purpose and their truest version?
Wow, that's such a good question. Because some of them might not even know.
Mm. And
Some
that's it,
do
right?
and some don't.
They've probably got this
They've got
whisper.
some
They've
kind
got
of
this voice.
inclination.
Yeah. But they're keeping it, they're like carrying on with their life. They're like, do you know
Mm,
what? I'm a marketing consultant. I'm going to carry on just doing my marketing for
yeah,
this corporate job, and I'm going to carry on doing
yeah.
this. But what it's because I think I was in a similar position where
Mm,
I just didn't know where to turn either. And I was like, oh my God, is anyone even going to take me seriously when
mm,
I say I'm going on this quantum journey, but I'm a marketing consultant? Like, what's
mhm.
going on here? So, what is that first step that you
The
think? What is that first step that
first step I always say, everything begins with you first. No, it's not
Mm,
about anybody else. Ask
mm,
yourself, do I accept myself? Do I accept me being different? Do I accept myself that I have intuitive, I have psychic abilities, I'm guided to this healing? Do I first accept it myself? And that is the first step, because if you don't accept it yourself, you're going to struggle to even find where to go to receive that level of support for
mm.
you. And then ask yourself, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I do step into it? So if you know, and I do know there are many out there who are going to be listening to this and watching this, and I know there's so many out there who have not awoken to this into this space, and it's happening. It's happening, but it's taking a bit of time. What's the worst thing that's going to happen?
I feel
And
I've got to
ask
read
yourself,
something
is
as
that
well.
true?
I feel I've got to read something because this came up yesterday, just yesterday. And I
Wow.
feel I've got to read something because I think it ties in nicely here. You have actually chosen to incarnate in this physical dimension. So, all of us as humans,
Yeah.
we've chosen to incarnate in this physical dimension to learn certain lessons.
Yes.
And it's up to us to understand what those are, because we made a choice, whether we remember it or not, or realize it or not, we made a choice. And it's up to us to do the work on ourselves to uncover what that is. So,
Yes.
obviously, Chin, you've been quite vocal, your mission about what your mission and purpose is, and really understanding that. So, sometimes when we just get caught in the rat race of the world, we lose sense of mission, sense of purpose. So,
Mm,
maybe the first thing you might identify in yourself is, do I actually have a sense of mission or purpose
mm.
yet? And if I don't, that's the first step I take in discovering what that might look like, which is kind of going inwards, isn't it?
It is. It's all about going inwards. Who am I? What is my
Mm.
purpose? What is my purpose? And it's not a far-fetched purpose. Your purpose can ultimately, purpose is always going to be the same. But when you first start, like my question, who am I? What am I even here to do?
Mm.
And really, the main purpose for every single individual first here on earth is to work on themselves, to do the healing on themselves. Now, not everyone's going to be doing it,
Yeah.
but that's what you're here to do because your soul had made the contract, like you said. There's karmic cycles that need healing and closing. There's lessons that you're learning. If you're experiencing certain patterns that keep repeating in your day-to-day life, in this life, unless you learn the lessons from it, they're going to keep repeating. So it's all
Mhm.
about going inwards. That's your first step. And like you said, exactly, question that. And then if you don't, that's when you're like, okay. And the other thing I always say to people is, if I was to take away your name, your titles, your responsibilities, and everything else from you, who are you?
Wow. I love that. Absolutely love that.
And
And
that is what you should be going by because you are beyond this
mm.
physical body.
100%. Wow, Chin. Do you know what? We are coming up to the end of our time. We could probably chat about this forever. But one thing I do want to share with everybody is, if you are even a little bit curious about this conversation, about the direction the conversation's gone in, about anything that Chintal has mentioned, I would really urge you guys to reach out. I would really, really urge
100%.
you to reach out, because you just don't know how a simple conversation could actually change the trajectory of your life. So if you're even a little bit curious about any of this stuff, just reach out. And Chin, how can people reach you?
You can drop me an email, chintal@chintalkakaya.com. And I love hanging out on Instagram. That's where you find me the most. So please follow me on Instagram, drop me a DM. It is me who responds to you. It's no
Not
bots
a
in
bot,
this.
not a chat
No
bot.
bots, no chatbots. No, it is myself. So please do. I'm at the Sacred Haveli. Please do reach out to me. Let's hang out on Instagram. Let's just have a chat. And you
Mm,
know, like Gajinda said, sometimes it's just one or two things that somebody has to say that will just spark something in you.
yeah,
And if you're part of Gajinda's membership, then yeah, I'm in there as well.
we
And
are in there. Yes, providing
I'll
lots
book a
of
session.
value to all the business owners. And you also run a lot of events as well. So I do attend a lot of your in-person events. So you run
Yeah.
a lot of these. What's the best way for people to find out about these events? Are they on your website, or is
They're
it
on my
through
website,
Instagram?
yes. I run a lot of healing circles, cacao, sacred cacao ceremonies as well. And they're all on the website. And if you're on Instagram, if you go to the link in the bio, they're all on there as well. So everything, all the events page and upcoming events, everything is on there. And yeah, I'd love to see you at, one of the healing. It's always a good step for a
It is
foot,
a
a
good
foot,
start.
a good start.
Yeah,
Exactly.
a good place to
Um,
start is
yeah,
just join the community, see what's going on, and see what it uncovers for you.
yes. And
Because
in a safe
every
space, in a safe, a
yeah.
very safe space. So, and with other women. So you're
Mm.
not on your own on that journey, and you'll be shocked and surprised to see how often women would think they're on their own, but they're actually not. And when they come into this space, they develop friendships, they've developed bonds. And I've had women come up to me and say that things have improved so much in their lives just by attending the circles, which is transformative.
Music,
I
isn't it?
must say. Yeah,
Music to your
100%.
ears, just what you want to hear. Chintal, thank you so, so much. I
Thank
absolutely have
you.
loved our conversation. And like I said, I feel like a part 2 is coming along because there
Yes.
is so much we could have spoken about. Thank you to everybody that has listened to this conversation. And please, please, please do reach out to Chintal. If you're even a tiny bit curious, reach out to me and hear about my journey as well, about my healing journey. Happy to share any details with you guys and might actually do a special session on that as well. So thank you guys so much. Really, really appreciate you guys. And we will be back soon with another episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.